I am so happy with how this looks for the Rangers. We have a pitcher, Jack Leiter, and he is a dude.
And while I do think his hitting is worse than Derek Jeter, it's not that far off.
You're not mentioning 2006. You can mention the other people, not 2006.
Oh, just because I bought the best soap doesn't mean your room's going to be clean. It just leaves it to where I don't believe that the Canadians had a shot.
I really don't like the Clippers just kind of sending it in when they're like...
Hi, this is Kelly Forbes with the Dallas Stars, and you're listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NBA Opinions of the Week. No Luka talk as of right now, but we are the Suns. As the man that I say, we've had these conversations for the past year, basically ever since they got Kevin Durant. Austin.
Yeah, the Suns have really struggled recently. They lost their last game against the Raptors with Bradley Beal putting up 30 points, and they're still losing games. They had a game with Royce O'Neal scoring 27, and they still lost that game. Something's wrong, and I do believe that they should make massive changes. But Kevin, I'm interested. When I say blow it up, I don't just mean get rid of KD and Beal. I mean, would you consider getting rid of Booker? That's truly blowing it up versus just making a change, even if it is a massive one. I would say blow it up means, in this instance, trading Beal, Durant, and Booker.
I think, how old is Booker? I think there's still something left. Like, you have plenty of time to rebuild around Booker. Like, I don't think Booker is a very good player.
Booker's 28.
28. I think you can be open to trading Booker. Of course, you trade Beal and Kevin Durant. Because my problem with the Suns is just the roster construction for them. That's, to me, is their biggest problem. Because this is the first year of... Oh my gosh, why am I forgetting his name? They fired Frank Vogel last year.
This is Budenholzer, I believe.
Budenholzer, yeah, Budenholzer. So I don't think it's a coaching issue. I actually really like Budenholzer. But it takes time for a coach to develop his system. But they also have they just don't have the roster to me, and they don't have enough assets. So I guess you could get a lot for Booker. I think you would get a lot for Durant. I don't think you would get a lot for Beal.
With Beal, the problem with Beal isn't skill; it's the fact that
it's the injuries
so much.
Oh yeah, and so the problem. So if it's trading Booker, I'm gonna say no. I think you can keep Booker and get other guys around.
Do you think they will?
I don't think they trade Booker. I'd be shocked.
Okay. I can see it either way. I mean, what even is the plan? Because the rebuilding process with Booker on the team is still going to be difficult because you're going to be winning games. And if you trade Durant and Beal just to get draft picks or young prospects, it's going to take a while to get good again.
Yeah, but I think Booker's on a contract for a while. He signed a 4-year. Yeah, he's just starting a 4-year deal. So you have him till his age 31 season. So I think there's time by the end of that you have him, that you have a team built around him. And I understand the tanking, but I do think you can also just hit on your draft picks. I do think this front office is good at finding talent, as they've kind of been forced into that situation just with what they have to do. Just because they have to make sure they hit on their draft picks. So I do think getting other picks from teams does work, and it just allows you to get more players and they can grow. So I could see that.
But is that in Booker's timeline of his career? It's not going to be quick to turn around.
I think it could be. I think by the...
Then how long would it take in your opinion?
I think
so. He's 28 right now. Next year he'll be 29.
I think when he's 31.
You think that they could be contenders again in 3 years?
Contenders, no. But
Because
I think they could be,
isn't
they
that
could be
the
a
goal?
playoff team. It is always the goal, but because I do
Kicking
think
the rocks
Booker-
down into the future to where eventually Booker's going to get. I mean, it is just when is Booker going to start falling off as a player? I mean, I don't think it's going to be by 31, but it could be by 34. And if you think that he could become a contender if they make the playoffs at 31? Do you think they could become a true title level team 3 years after making the playoffs for the first time again? I don't know. The West is kind of a gauntlet at the moment. You have Luka in LA. You have a lot of Western Conference teams that are extremely good.
But to me, I think you can see teams just quickly rebuild. So I think,
For example,
I think look at the Spurs. Spurs
were bad the last 3 years.
Last 3 years.
4 years. I mean, they've been bad ever since DeRozan left.
I feel like you can quickly jump back into the playoffs.
Well, and I don't even think the Spurs are going to make the playoffs this year now because of Wemby's injury.
But I think next year, though, which I guess is at 4 to 5.
It's 5-ish, yeah.
Like, I guess.
And I would like to mention that's because they got the number 1 pick because they had no good players on their team.
Yeah.
So it's going to be harder with keeping a 27 point per game, 26 point per game scorer on your roster to continue to build it as well.
Yeah, Luka's been in the league 7 years, so because I before the Luka trade, I think the Mavs became contenders within.
But again, the Luka thing, they didn't have any good players on their team.
Well, yeah, they also didn't have many picks because they did that big trade for Porzingis, and then they tanked like the Derek Lively draft. Like they tanked to get that Derek Lively pick. They did a lot of trades. But I think things can be easily maneuvered to where you can get a better team.
I just can't think of any examples where that happens.
Yeah.
Like even if you go like Cavs, right? The Cavs made the playoffs. I think this is their 3rd year in a row they're going to make the playoffs. But Braun left in 2018. Like, so that's 18, 19, 19, 20, 21, 20, 21, 21, 22. I mean, that's 4 or 5 years. And again, you have no remnants of that 17, 18 team on your roster. So that's another reason why they can have the success. They can draft guys like Mobley. They can have other they draft guys like Garland. You can draft Garland, you can draft Mobley, and you trade future draft picks to get Mitchell. I mean, that's the usual progression, right? You don't get Mitchell. You don't have Mitchell first. Most of the teams that are trying to rebuild, aka the Jazz, have to trade a guy like Donovan Mitchell to eventually hope in the future they can get good again. I just can't think of many examples where a team keeps one of their guys that's not on their rookie contract and can progress into the future and become a contender. Because I'm trying to think. I mean, they always stay in the playoffs, like a Giannis team. Like they've been in the playoffs since 16, 17, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like they've rebuilded per se. All right, they've retooled. They haven't rebuilded under Giannis.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of an example of a team that was
a
contender, then fell out of being contender, and then had some stayovers from that time that were really, really good, all-star level players. Because you got to think, another example, the Rockets. The Rockets have really quickly turned it around, but they have zero remnants of their old team. They don't have Capella. They don't have Harden. They don't have Eric Gordon. They don't have any of the good players from those teams anymore.
You could go Warriors, but I don't know if you count
the Warriors. Steph Curry missed the whole season. That's the reason why they were terrible that 1 year, right? I think it was more injuries and concerns in that regard than it was anything else. And then they got everyone back healthy because Klay was also out. So they didn't have Klay and they didn't have Curry and KD because KD had just left. And then everyone got healthy. the only really addition they made draft pick wise in that time, they got Poole, but they also got Wiseman, but Wiseman was not good. They got Moses Moody, who's good now. But are the Warriors contenders? Like, if you're saying since 2022, I don't really think so.
Yeah, it's tough. You make a point with
because I think okay, another team is completely rebuilt. Toronto, Toronto, they don't have any remnants of the past team. They had to trade Siakam last season. That was the last really good player that they had. That was from that title team. I just can't think of teams that rebuild while having a guy Booker's age and don't become just mediocre.
Yeah. If you want to go completely contending, I think they can go from mediocre to a top team constantly in the playoffs, not just barely getting in the playoffs. I think they could do that by the end of when he's 31, by the end of this contract.
I'm trying to think of an example of that happening.
Well, you've seen, I'm not saying contender, but if you look at the Kings were a good team, so I kind of think they got in their way.
But they didn't even win a playoff series. They have not won a playoff series since 2004 or something like that, 2005. And there's no guarantee they're making the playoffs this year.
You could go, I don't know if you count the Clippers. They're getting, they're a 6th seed. I think you could go to a 5th seed with the Suns.
Did they rebuild?
That's the question, though. What would their rebuild be?
Because they still have Kawhi. They still have Zubac. They still have players from those Western Conference Finals runs on their team. I mean, I understand the Clippers example, but because they had PG, they were able to retool by getting. They didn't go for draft picks. They didn't go for younger players. They traded PG to get James Harden, right? So it's.
Well,
it's
James Harden was.
No, I'm just saying that's the progression they did. They didn't actually trade it, but I'm talking about theoretically, right? They made the move for a Harden type guy instead of, because a rebuild with Booker, if you're trading Durant, I don't know what you could get. What team wants to give up a lot besides draft picks for Durant? He's 37 next year. Who wants to give up one of your stars to get KD? No one. You may give up draft picks if you're a really good team and want to contend. Sure, I get it. But you don't want to give up a young player, right? One of the reasons why you're already good.
But yeah, no. So, and it'd be tough. I think for the Suns fan base too. But maybe if they trade Kevin Durant, and Beal, you give it one more season to see what happens. Because I do think the contract would get better for Booker over the years once there's 2 years left on it.
I hear what you're saying.
So are you in favor of blowing it up?
I hate what you just said, the give it one more year with Booker. But I would not say till he's 31 or something like that. I wouldn't say end of contract. I would say see what it looks next year. Look, I'm not I think I'm not someone that likes to truly rebuild, but I just don't know how your team is good at all. I'm willing to keep Booker around another year or two, maybe till he's, but not end of contract. I feel like the timetable is a little bit more pressing than that because of, once you hit your 30s, getting paid again, he's going to get paid in his last couple of years $60 million. That's just tough.
Yeah, I think it's kind of your definition of good. If you want to compete for a championship, I don't think you can do that by the end of the contract. But being a playoff team, I think I can see happen. Because it's just kind of moving pieces around. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens there. But kind of that is all I have. Any final thoughts?
Not really. I am interested to see what they're gonna do. I think KD's a goner. I think Beal's a goner. It's gonna be up to Booker though, or the team what they want to do with Booker. I could see them going either way. I'm fine if they want to keep him for a year or two, but I do think that it's gonna take a lot, and Booker will have to show a lot to prove that he not deserves, but it is willing to do the timeline of a complete rebuild while he's on the roster.
Yeah, that's a great point. It does come up with Booker as well, as that roster has changed a lot under him. And yeah, we'll keep you updated through that. But yeah, I definitely think something's changed, and they'll have to do some gymnastics just kind of with what they're in right now. But we'll keep you updated through that. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.